Watch today.
Хлопнув.
Ну, це трошки глобальне питання, воно...
This is a fairly global question. What comes first, supply or demand?
Попит чи пропозиція?
Why are your questions so difficult? Maybe you can ask something simpler.
Думаю, що під час джемів і репетицій буває. Буває деколи таке от...
I think that sometimes it happens during jams and rehearsals that we catch a wave.
Якусь хвилю, і в нас там виходить... Хлопнув.
Hello, we're the Somali Yacht Club, and we'll spend this day together. The Somali Yacht Club is a rock trio from Lviv. They have existed since 2010, and over this time they managed to release the EP Sandsongs and full-length albums The Sun and the Sea. The Sea is a more mature, complex, and interesting album. It includes 6 tracks, some of which are up to 12 minutes long. In its music, the band mixes elements of rock music, psychedelic rock, and post-metal. This is the situation with most genres. It seems to me that if we talk about a narrower direction, psychedelic rock, stoner rock, then they're represented in Ukraine, especially when comparing these genres with punk rock, which is generally somewhat distant from that. In fact, genre music in Ukraine is not popular. It for some reason simply does not have an audience. This is a fairly global economic question. Namely, what comes first, supply or demand? For example, if there are any relevant groups that are invited to go on tour and play for the local audience, then people who come to concerts are pumped up musically. They understand that there is such a genre and it can be interesting. If there are no such tours, then people will never find out about such bands. In fact, now the situation is much worse than in 2010, when, for example, Robust Fellow organized the stoner festivals. Or there was a wave of hardcore and punk rock music. Now, for example, absolutely nothing is happening. Well, there are some bands in Kharkiv, there was a hardcore festival, but it happens once a year. There are bands that can play completely different music, with completely different tags, but they hang out together. People listen to them because they know that these dudes are cool, they need to listen to their music. So what kinds of tags are they? Will it be psychedelic, will it be post-metal, or will it be stoner rock? This is essentially the work of journalists to scatter such tags. It's convenient, it has a certain characteristic and is fast. Well, then describe under which tag we fall. And I can't. Stoner rock? No. All stoner rockers will tell you no. And that's all, it's hard rock. Post-rock. It's not cool, hard rock, no. I would say it's hard rock psychedelic. Hard rock psychedelic, yes. Actually, there is such a concept as heavy psychedelic. It's not that, it sounds strange. It can somehow be called very generally.
Воно не таке, воно звучить як якийсь героїн з колонок. Ні.
I think that sometimes it happens during jams and rehearsals. We catch a wave and we get the drift completely not expecting that. And after 10 or 15 minutes of jamming, we already have some kind of experience that allows us to continue to approach it more rationally and make a decent song out of it. There is some skeleton of the song. We have written a lot of songs in this way. We just jammed something and then said, wow, that was pretty cool, let's do something with it. We don't set deadlines or stick to them, though this is both good and bad. We did not want the deadlines to affect our brains or creativity. We didn't want some restrictions like, you have to release an album in a year. We relaxed and took our time. Maybe we relaxed too much. Now we're trying to somehow be less picky and at least try to finish some tracks faster. It seems to me that we just began to play better and are understanding each other faster. How to eat persimmon before the tongue starts to go numb. Swallow completely. 80s or 2000s? 80s, they're closer to punk rock. Why did they come up with so many names of musical genres? The journalists are to blame for everything. They were bored. Sam Smith or Chad Faker? Chad Faker.
Чет Фейкер все-таки.
Sam Smith, of course. What do you want to become when you grow up? An astronaut. Which of you all is the most self-critical? Les.
Я думаю,
I think I am.
Ні, я просто найкритичніший.
Moccasin or Sungrazer?
О,
Moccasin.
Мокасін.
Dub or jazz? Jazz. Dub. What makes you different from other groups? The name. Why do heavy musicians love black clothes? When it's difficult to choose a color, it's easier to take black and not show off. Rage Against the Machine or Prodigy? Why are your questions so difficult? Maybe you can ask something simpler?
Продіджі.
Rage Against the Machine. What is the main quality in a person that you value?
Прикольно.
Being cool. What Ukrainian groups do you like? From the last that I discovered for myself is La Horsa Bianca. I like straight tones.
Досить таки подобається.
Alona Alona. Let it be heard by everyone.
Коли ми писали за Сан,
When we recorded The Sun, we were completely an unknown band. We wrote what came into our heads, and we absolutely did not have any worries that someone knows about us or something is expected of us.
і від нас що-небудь очікують.
So we wrote what we wrote. That's the way it happened. Well, in the end, many people perceived it well, and I think that's really cool. The sea, of course, had a certain kind of responsibility, and there was some kind of burden. But on the contrary, it subjectively seemed to us that we were going somewhere into uncharted territories. Something was already different from what we did on the Sun, and it seemed to us that this might seem like we were going off the track, but people still perceived it well. There was criticism that we have a lot of self-repeats in our album.
Багато самоповторів. Тобто,
It seems to me that this subjective moment in the creation of music and creativity differs from how it is perceived from the outside.
в творенні там музики та в творчості від того, як це сприймається зі сторони. Тобто,
That is, we saw this album in a completely different way than the audience heard it. An interesting thing is that it seems to be impossible to escape from this. Lessig said it right. The second album is somewhat experimental, or at least it seemed that way to us.
Експериментальніше, в міру того, що ми могли зіграти
Well,
експеримент.
maybe somehow this is not very positive, but I really like it, because for me it sounds much more mature. So I didn't understand that criticism. Well, and I understood the reason for the criticism.
Я от таку критику я не зовсім зрозумів.
Opinions of listeners and musicians differ.
Це дві сторони: слухач і музикант.
In fact, the first cover was a finished work, as far as I remember. We thought about making some adjustments, but we realized that this made no sense, since it was in its original form. So for this simple reason, we left it as it was. This is an artist. Her name is Dasha Pliska, a very good painter from Odessa. In fact, we have been cooperating with her for a long time, and I'm confident that we will continue working with her. And on the second album, we took it more seriously and asked for general artwork on the concept of the album, and each song should definitely have its own artwork. We sent her the songs and the lyrics, and she drew her art according to what she heard in each track. If you take these two compositions, Hemingway with his novel The Old Man and the Sea inspired us. There are even pieces torn from the text.
Навіть є куски речень вирвані от Religion of Man, назва це вирвана прямо з
You
речень.
don't have to fully open and show everything. Look, the song is about this and that, and this line is about this, and I wanted to say that. No, we give you this form and you yourself perceive it as you want. You want sadness, you want rejoice, you want dance. Do you want to say that it is extremely boring? You have to choose what to do with this form. 84 days is exactly as many days as the old man's trip took for his wonderful catch in the sea, which he brought home. By the way, about this name, I read the comments. Some people understood this reference. Yes, this is a reference there. This is a very pleasant moment, and in fact, we have not voiced it anywhere. Moreover, we recorded the opposite. It was an incorrect reference, and certain people understood that this was the case.
Деякі люди якось догадувалися.
Thank you for spending time with us. It was Somali Yacht Club Band. Goodbye.